Hey guys, welcome back to Tiny Disneyland. So in this week's progress, I was able to build Space Mountain and Pizza Port, and here is a quick glimpse of what they look like in game, and I will show you the time-lapse of how I got to this structure. This was a massive structure to work on, but I'm glad I was able to pull it off in vanilla. But yeah, the growth of Disneyland is growing at a good steady pace, and this Tomorrowland is going to maybe be completed. Well, I wouldn't say maybe, it might get completed soon, or I might just jump to another side of the park, like either work on Frontierland. But let's just get right into it and go into the time lapse and the construction of Space Mountain. Okay, let's get into it. So the first couple things to actually start work on Space Mountain was to figure out the size and figure out the limitations of vanilla, because I know I can easily build Space Mountain in like Construction Anarchy or Transfer Anarchy. Like those mods are wonderful for that. Like I know I could probably do it, but the point of doing this all in vanilla was the challenge and the puzzle aspect of it. So the first thing I did a while ago was put down a monorail track as my border of the building, and I knew that was the monorail was the perfect size because it's something I can easily put down as a curvature item and then kind of judge where the mountain, well yeah, Space Mountain is a mountain. It's kind of weird. It's like, it's not really a mountain, it's more like a space station. But I did that first, the monorail track, and then I had to also figure out the tiers of the mountain going up. So you can see here I'm putting down another monorail ride, and I have to elevate land because it already reached its height limit. So monorails, you can't go really high, but if you do the terrain trick like in RCT, you bring it up, build your ride, and then you go down to you get rid of the land, and the ride will stay there. Unless I delete it and try to replace it, it won't work, but it's the same trick here. So I have my two tiers. I got my bottom ring and my top ring. And then 45-degree angled cubes are going to be my beams that go around the mountain. Now, I had some realizations as I first started this, was that I wasn't going to have as many beams as I really wish I had. Because if you look at the actual Space Mountain, there's like 20 beams that go around the circumference of the building. In vanilla, I'm only allowed, well, let me count, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, yeah. So you got your north, south, east, and west, and then your 45 degrees. So yeah, I only have 8. It's crazy. I only have 8 beams on this mountain. So I had to bite the bullet and accept that, and kind of try to make it look like Space Mountain, but like it's a simplified version. So I had to accept that, even though I really wanted to use mods. I wanted to so badly. But I told myself, no, I need to show what I can do with this game without having mods and see how far we can stretch it. And I did so. And it looks like Space Mountain. I'm quite happy with the results. So the first thing I need to do is actually build the actual ride. So with the building's at a diagonal, which I, again, chose to do that on purpose because I liked the corner it sat in, and it kind of filled up the backstage area and kind of made the back, well, it just made it look nicer and neater. So having the little outcrop in the front of the mountain where the theater would go, or Captain EO or Honey and Shrunk the Audience would actually be, I put the station of Space Mountain there because it's at a 90-degree angle. Put that down on the grid and then proceed to build a layout similar to the actual Space Mountain layout in real life. I mean, there's some cuts and things I did to it, but majority of the ride is right turns because that's how it is. Oh, hold on, wait a minute. Is Space Mountain mostly left or right turns? I can Google this real quickly because I'm curious. Space Mountain, let me spell it right on Google's. I know Space Mountain is one of the other turns that it does most of the time. So Space Mountain, at Disneyland is mostly, let's see here, 18,000. It's not saying, wow, what the wiki really doesn't tell you. I know it's left, no, it's right-hand turns. Let me think. Let me go look at the track layout. Track layout for Space Mountain. Space Mountain track layout. No, I want this one. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Don't fail on me now, Google. Okay, let's see here. This is mostly, we go up the chain left, we do a right turn, left turn, left turn, left turn, right turn. Then toward the bottom, let me see, we do a, oh yeah, it's all right turns. Okay, so I was right. Okay. I had to double check. While that was looking up that stuff, I quickly jump over to now what's this. This is now what made the mountain work in this vanilla version is I used disc shapes at its full size and stacked them all the way up and then filled in the gaps. But to really quickly recap on the layout of Space Mountain, it's mostly right-hand turns and then it does a left-hand turn at the end. That's what makes Space Mountain at Disneyland so unique, is that its layout is just wild, how they built it. And it's so cool about what the Space Mountain layout here at Disneyland is with the pitching, where you go on a straightaway and then the train goes up a little bit or down a little bit, giving you a little bit of sense of zero gravity, like the little pitches. It's a kind of weird feeling, and especially being in the dark, the ride feels faster than it is. In reality, when the ride I think only travels 28 to 30 miles an hour at most. But you can see here, as I'm stacking discs, it is a tedious process. I did this for a quarter of the mountain, blueprinted it, and then repeated it 3 more times, and I finished the mountain basically this way. This was like, I don't know what I was thinking. This is a lot of shapes, and for people who have lower end systems, this is going to struggle for you. But for me, it didn't really hit on performance. It was really just fine. The only thing that hits on performance actually is when I toggle between hidden scenery and view scenery. It takes a second for the game to realize, oh, I need to hide all the scenery, so that makes it all invisible. That takes a hit, but most of the time for me it doesn't do much, just stacking these shapes on top. Yeah, I mean, the ridging on this mountain kind of looks silly, but I have to accept it because it is vanilla. And from a distance, when you back away from it, like you scroll out and zoom out, the mountain looks okay. It looks like Space Mountain. As long as it resembles what I'm achieving, I'm okay. And yeah, that's the thought there. It's like, it's just how it goes. I could have done a little bit more like precise placement, but most of it was freehand. I tried to use the grid to help me out, but I think the grid was just not helping me with that. So I kind of just had to freehand it and place down a quarter of it, and then I actually covered the top tier here and started to test out what a spire would look like, because at the edges of the Space Mountain there's our spires that point up to the sky. So I wanted to try to imitate those with using blocks and cubes. I'm like, okay, that works out. And then you can see here I'm going to blueprint this. I was worried here for a second that I was going to reach the blueprint limit. There's a blueprint limit. I think it's like, I don't know, I think it's over 800,000 blocks or 1 million blocks. I can't remember the exact number, but I know that if you go over it, the blueprint won't work. It will just deny you from actually saving it. So I was very worried that it wasn't going to do it. And I was like, okay, can this work? Please work, please work. And I made sure that I got rid of the beams. I didn't need to copy those, and I copied it. And I'm like, oh, it worked, cool. And I'm like, now I have to place 3 more. So this was the fun part. Because the moment I did this, I realized that the mountain was basically complete and perfect in my eyes. So on to building the spires to kind of decorate the top of the mountain to give it that spacey retro look. I don't know the reason for why they went for this design, but it it is kind of iconic now at this point, Space Mountain being this wild building. And it's a shame we don't get buildings like this anymore, because I'm going to go on my rant a little bit with Disney and its latest, I don't know, I want to call them blunders. You can look at Guardians of the Galaxy, Cosmic Rewind. They just put it in a box. They didn't think to decorate the box and make it look like some wild sci-fi building. Nope, they just made it into a box and colored it 3 different colors. Space Mountain is like one of the unique structures that Disney will never do again, I don't think. Unless something changes internally at the company, but at this point, nothing has changed. It's like, yeah, like the Epcot ball. That is a pretty wild structure. And it houses an attraction, which I think is really neat. So when I don't know, I'm sad that no, we don't get like wild architecture anymore from Disney, and Space Mountain and Epcot is kind of the last ones. I don't even want to count Everest. Everest is a mountain, which is a structure. Trying to think what other, we had Tron, but Tron still had a box. It had this cool canopy in the front. That was neat, but just a box. Yeah, I want unique structures back for like a roller coaster, but it was kind of fun to do that here in this vanilla run of my tiny Disneyland, is make this wild looking structure that is at itself very iconic now. It is only known as to be Space Mountain. So you can see I did the terrain trick again with another set of monorail tracks to be the top tier of the mountain, because I've used Space Mountain as a layered cake. You have your bigger beams that spread out for the support, and then you have your smaller beams toward this middle, and then the top is just your cake on top, and there will be more spires I'll add on later as well. But you can see the track layout kind of resembles the track layout of Space Mountain. I think I can run 4 or 5 trains. No, I think I can run 6 trains. So hopefully, operations-wise, the mountain or Space Mountain will run pretty well. I don't see any problems it would cause, because this ride and Matterhorn are basically the same. They have 2-car trains with, I think Matterhorn has 5 trains and this has 6. So this might have more guests per hour, but I'm not sure. So right now I'm going to finish up the spires on the pillars here and finish off the last one in the center. It's not even centered, it's more like a side profile of a spire. I kind of copy the one that I did earlier with my near Star Trader. Jeez. Yeah, I copied that technique too, just using cubes, changing the sizes smaller to make him look like it's getting taller and taller. Just a simple trick, nothing too crazy. So I'm going to let you guys here. We're going to go view the park. I'll show you some close-up details, because I did work on some things like Pizza Port off camera and some other things and details to kind of finish up this north area of Tomorrowland. So let's head over there right now. Okay, here is Space Mountain in all its glory. So welcome, space travelers. This is it. So the key things I worked on off screen. So after I built the mountain, I slowly kind of got my way into building like the areas and the buildings that kind of connect to Space Mountain. The wild thing about Space Mountain at Disneyland is connected to several buildings. It's connected to Star Tours. There's a tunnel that goes through for the People Mover, and it's connected to Pizza Port. So I kind of imitated that here, even though it's not exactly accurate. My tiny Disneyland is a representation of Disneyland. So I fudged on some details. The original plan was to have the escalator in the center, but then I found out I put it at a diagonal, and that's asking for pain. So I was like, nah, I'm going to remove that from the plans and just do the typical regular Space Mountain area with the upstairs queue that this is. And so I kind of made the artwork that kind of is represented here. I got these angled roofs and, I don't know, roof and buildings that kind of connect to each side of the building. And then I proceed to build the Space Mountain logo sign for the entrance. Worked out great because it is at a 90-degree angle, not 45-degree. And then I proceed to build Pizza Port. because I need pizza port. I was going to build over here actually Rocket to the Moon, one of the rides that was first built for Disneyland in 1955, but it felt that would be contradicting because Space Mountain is about space travel and so is Rocket to the Moon, and so it didn't really feel like it would work. So I just opted to just do pizza port, and it's the only other food area I have in Tomorrowland because I have this one over here in Tomorrowland Terrace, so I did need an additional set of restaurants. So I opted to do that, and then I built the TWA rocket that goes with it. That is the homage to... Am I even saying that right? No, homage, not homage. That's not the word either. I'm honoring... There you go, I'm going to say that. I'm honoring Rocket to the Moon with a TWA rocket. So I kind of made my own version out of shapes. This was actually very difficult to work on because the rockets and the legs, man, that was difficult. But for vanilla, I'm happy with it. And then I did this weird canopy thing with the umbrellas that they have in front of Pizza Port. It's kind of the unique thing about Tomorrowland. Again, Tomorrowland's kind of a weird clashing of themes and techniques and eras. It's a weird land. So with Space Mountain, I didn't show in the time lapse, I did build an additional monorail loop around here because I wanted to clean up the edges. And I'm glad I did so because it does look significantly better. And it just looks like Space Mountain. So if I get rid of the scenery, you can kind of see how Space Mountain is just kind of designed and kind of crammed in there. And it works out pretty well. I think this is let me double check. I think it's 6 trains, right? I have 6 trains. I think I can run 7. But what's theoretically the amount of customers per month, which is every hour for us, 188. That doesn't sound like a lot. That sounds pretty low, actually. Could I run 7 trains? I wonder. I might have to test that off screen to test that theory out. But this is Space Mountain. I also worked on the water ball. I think that's what it's called. I didn't want to build the trees around it. I felt like it would be too much clutter, so I just removed those. I was going to plan to place down little circles for the water spouts, but got lazy, and I would have to do that by hand, and circles by hand are not pretty. You can kind of see in Space Mountain how not perfectly it's ridged, but I have to kind of deal with it and kind of accept it. But from a distance, you're like, oh, that looks like Space Mountain. I'm pretty happy with that. Let's see here. Let's go show you what nighttime looks like. This was fun to do because Space Mountain at night looks pretty sick with the blue space lighting all the way around it. You can kind of now see the ridging because it's really defined with the lights. But I wanted to see what nighttime looked like, and it looks pretty solid. And also with speed support, kind of lit up as well with a little bit of lighting here and there. I might have to light up this water ball. Maybe add some more lights around here, but you can kind of see Tomorrowland's kind of putting itself together. And it's quite enjoyable watching it grow week by week. So the next couple projects, I have a couple different directions I can go, to be honest. I can build interventions, so it's another circular building, but I'm confident enough I can do another circular building after doing Space Mountain. I can probably do it. And then build the starts of Autopia and Submarine Voyage with Monorail Station. I could do that too. Or I can jump across the hub and work on Frontierland finally. And maybe jump toward working on Big Thunder. Because I feel like if I get Big Thunder down and rooted, I think the Rivers of America will just appear. It will just happen and work naturally into the rest of the anchored things I already built. Haunted Mansion and Splash Mountain have moved a couple times. I'm still debating on Critter Country. And like this back corner is where Pirates will eventually sit, but we'll see. But I think I'm leaning on toward working on Frontierland and getting most of the buildings in. So like the Mercantile, the Shooting Gallery, Del Zocalo with Big Thunder Mountain. And I think I can squeeze Big Thunder Mountain right up against this wall and up against this pathway. Or I can probably push this pathway a little bit toward the river. Haven't really figured that out. I'm debating in my head. But I think I'm most likely going to work on Frontierland. Let me see. Matterhorn seems solid where I want it. I just have to build the fences around it, and then once I put the monorail in and, you know, Autopia and Summer Voyage, and then that will kind of be finished. So you can kind of see the park will start picking up pace a little bit once I like fill in areas. I'm glad like last week I worked on the front area of Tomorrowland and in the main street, and then worked on Plaza Inn, because honestly if I left this empty, this probably would be empty until the end, and it doesn't look good. So I'm trying to combat my laziness on forcing myself working on areas I should fill in really quickly and then move on to like bigger projects. I mean, this Space Mountain took a while to work on because I sat for hours spinning around looking at it like, what am I going to do? I have beams to build, I have these surfaces to cover, I just didn't know what to do, but overall I think everything about it looks pretty solid. So I'm quite happy with the looks of Space Mountain. Oh, this looks cool from this angle. Ooh, this looks neat. Wait, let me see if I can get a cooler shot. If I do it like this. I want to line up that 45-degree angle. There we go. That looks cool. That looks neat. Take a picture. Okay, I took a picture. This is cool. Okay, so I'm going to wrap up. So thank you guys for watching so far. The Tiny Disneyland project that's continued to work on. But I think I'm going to work on Frontierland, work on Big Thunder Mountain, things like that. But if you guys enjoyed watching, leave a like, comment, you know, share with friends what I'm working on. This has been fun. So this has been fun regardless. Like, this is great. So I'll catch you guys in the next Disneyland update. It is also already spooky month, so I might stop working on this project and work on the last campaign level. Haven't decided yet if I feel like I want to work on that. Maybe I will. But I'll catch you guys in the next episode of some sort. It could either be campaign or Tiny Disneyland. So I'll see you then. Bye.